So you're talking about not just writing a spec before you start developing, but creating a model before developing. Seems like a pretty good idea. Is anyone already doing this, even in a manual sense?
There is an elite community out there doing that today. They're the event modeling community, led by Adam Dimitruk. And they've been doing this for the last 10 years or so in a manual fashion. It was inspired by Alberto Brandolini's event storming, which came just slightly before that. They start with the discovery process, turning it into a sense-making sort of exercise, right? Like, how do we turn this chasm that exists between the business and the technology into a tiny, tiny hop? Like, let's not make it a chasm, let's make it just a step, right? And the way they do that is by way of modeling. It's very powerful to use a modeling technique to enable broader communication between entire teams. And you will never get this from a ticket-driven system, right? You might have tickets stored into epics and so on, but that's just a hierarchical structure that lacks any kind of domain knowledge. So it started out with people that really get information systems, right? The likes of the event stormers and event modelers, they really understand the core of information systems. So it started there, and the modeling is prevalent in that area. And I think it also really depends on how your organization is built. Like, is it a matrixed organization where you have one team that does requirements, which lobs things over the wall for the next team, and then they lob it back to the other party, which is the QA team? There's a larger gap, there's a larger hop. The language that's used between the business and the technology is different because the developers are acting as a translation from English to Greek, right? So you don't have compatible language. But when you're doing something like event modeling, the events become the core language. The business language is the language of programming, and that's actually common across both. So your translation layer becomes less. People who have been doing event-driven systems understand. And you're asking me why not everybody does this? Well, it's because everybody assumes that it has to be English and Greek. They don't assume that it can just all be English.